Hi, everybody. It's a queer world. Hot streams everywhere. What a wonderfully odd film there. Um, I don't know what was going on with, what that represented. Somebody, you can look it up on Google, try to figure out, share with us in the comments what was just happening there. Um, let's keep this zaniness going with mouse activated candle lighter. Enjoy.
Science close-up of a mouse-activated candle lighter. This is a mouse-activated candle lighter. When a mouse springs the trap, the ring is released, and the end of the fishing rod springs back, pulling a pin from the gear of the alarm clock. With the pin gone, the alarm rings, winding up the cord at the same time. The cord pulls out the safety pin, and the spring behind the ice pick pushes it through the hole into the balloon, which breaks. The weight falls, pulling the lever of a wind-up train motor. As the train motor turns, it winds up another cord that leads to a metal arm, held in place with a safety pin. When the safety pin is pulled out, the metal arm is released. The stretched rubber band pulls the arm down. At the upper end of the arm is a match, held in a battery clip. The match scrapes against the sandpaper as it's pulled down and lights the wick of the candle. Now for a dry run to see if the mouse-activated candle lighter really works. A slight adjustment will be necessary. You have just seen many examples of potential energy, the energy stored in an object, changed to kinetic energy, the energy of action. How many different forms of potential energy can you find as the mouse-activated candle lighter is reset? Pull back the arm of the mousetrap. Bend the fish pole down, insert the ring, and set the trap. Wind the clock alarm. Insert the pin and then set off the alarm. Pull the ice pick back. This compresses the spring. And insert the safety pin into a hole in the handle. With the inflated balloon in place, position the weight. Set the release and wind up the train motor, unwinding the cord at the same time. Open the battery clip, insert a new match, and move the candle closer. Raise the arm, stretching the rubber band, and the match is pressed against the sandpaper. Hold the arm in position with another safety pin. The mouse-activated candle lighter is now ready to go again. How many examples of kinetic energy can you... Uh-oh. Do you see what I see? A mouse.
Science. Yeah, pretty great. Pretty great. Don't really have a answer for it beyond it's a wonderful Rube Goldberg. And they don't even talk about Rube Goldberg there. I mean, it's really what he was all about. All right, so behind me, I have a film scanner set up, and I have a film, which is, oops, I got it wrong. Got the title wrong. It's Duke Thomas, Mailman. Enjoy. Sound problem again. The audio is not even. Oh, I know what's going on. All right, we'll come back to that. In the meantime, let's look at medical advances from the ocean. Enjoy.
At Ciba-Geigy, research scientists create products which enrich the quality of our lives. Products to increase our food supply, dyes and pigments which surround us with color, pharmaceuticals to improve our health, products which reaffirm the value of science to mankind. As part of its continuing program in support of science education, Ciba-Geigy is pleased to present this issue of the Science Screen Report. The Science Screen Report, developments in science, engineering, and medicine, which help solve the problems of modern life. The oceans, covering 3/4 of our planet, are also the environment of 80% of Earth's life forms. Today, ocean life research is proving to be a significant source of such medications as antibiotics and anti-cancer drugs, as well as important new medical knowledge. Currently, science is expanding its efforts to harvest medical discoveries and materials from the oceans. This is a report on those growing efforts, Medical Advances from Ocean Studies. The ocean, an environment teeming with plants and animals, rich with chemicals and nutrients, charged with the stored energy of sunlight. Today, man is returning to the living oceans in search of scientific advances. The research expeditions of New York's Osborne Laboratories, for example, cover the waters around Jamaica and the British Virgin Islands. Specimens are taken for the aquarium as well as for the medication program. Ocean species vary in their medical usefulness. Some are only slightly effective as medicines. Others have bad side effects. Still others are less effective than now available medications. But for each new species collected and tested, there is a chance of a major medical discovery. At Osborne Laboratories, the scientific sifting process commences. In order to test a newly collected sponge toxin, a sea urchin female is coaxed into releasing her eggs, while gamete sex cells are collected from the male sea urchin. The eggs are fertilized in a culture dish, and some sponge toxin added. After a one-day wait, the samples are checked. There are normal larvae, but also abnormal larvae, evidence of the sponge toxin's biological effects. Poisonous jellyfish and other venomous creatures are also starting to benefit medical science. They're injurious toxins in use worldwide, both in research and in the treatment of cardiovascular and nerve disorders. At the Los Angeles County and University of Southern California Medical Center, Dr. Finley Russell specializes in studies of venomous creatures of both land and sea, possible sources of tomorrow's medications. In Washington State, jellyfish are harvested at Friday Harbor Biological Station for testing as a diagnostic tool. Their ability to luminesce or glow when stimulated is the key to this technique. Jellyfish extract and test patient blood are placed in a spectrophotometer. If calcium ions are present, a flash of light results. Its brightness level can indicate cancer or parathyroid problems. At the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, blood of horseshoe crabs is collected to be used in detecting endotoxins, poisons produced by some species of bacteria. Up to half the crab's blood may be removed without harm. The fluid is then centrifuged to separate useful components to be extracted, freeze-dried, and shipped to researchers. At Johns Hopkins University Hospital in Baltimore, researcher Jack Levin has found this horseshoe crab extract effective in the diagnosis of some types of blood poisoning, urinary tract infections, and meningitis bacteria infections of brain fluid. Solid gel indicates deadly endotoxins, while the control fluid is clear and colorless. This sea life diagnosis system, simple and sensitive, is now superseding others for these disorders. Woods Hole is also a leading world center in applying marine science to researching medical mysteries. New knowledge of the squids, for instance, is helping explain the human nervous system. Currently, squid nerve studies are being carried out by a National Institute of Health expert, Dr. David Gilbert. The squid's nerve fiber, 500 times larger than a human nerve, makes it an ideal research subject. A human nerve would be too small to probe in this fashion. In fact, much basic knowledge of human nerve functions has come from the squid. Here an electrode is inserted within the nerve to measure and analyze signals moving through it. Another nerve study project involves responses of divers' nervous systems to extreme pressure, and in particular, why such high pressure may produce nervous tremors, brief periods of unconsciousness, and even death. A small pressure chamber holding a squid nerve axon is used to simulate the critical conditions. In another Woods Hole project, toadfish are used to study human diabetes. Unlike man's, the insulin-producing cells of toadfish are concentrated in a single mass. Insulin release can thus be more easily studied, providing clues to its malfunction, known as diabetes. Here, radioactive insulin-producing toadfish cells, visible at right, are placed in a test tube. A growth medium is added. Then the mixture is cycled through a radiation monitor. As insulin is released, the radiation count changes, providing clues to the nature of diabetes. At a University of California, Berkeley laboratory, leeches are being studied in order to better understand the brain. While the human brain has billions of nerve cells, the leech, with only a few hundred, provides a simple model for studying the brain's equivalent of an electronic circuit. Each segment of the leech's body has its own nerve center. Fine glass electrodes permit probing of these centers to determine their structures and functions. Much was learned from this smaller leech species, also a source of a valuable anti-blood clotting drug. By comparison, however, the new half-a-meter-long leech provides more progeny, hence is a better source of both anticoagulants and test subjects. Studies at Albert Einstein College of Medicine involve the eyes of the cowfish, which move independently of each other. As Dr. Michael Bennett demonstrates, rotating the cowfish's head makes the fish's eyes shift, allowing its retina to remain locked on a single visual target. But what causes the eyes to move, and what controls how much they move? The phenomenon is studied via this apparatus. As the cowfish is rotated, its nerves signal its eyes to move, and the nerve signals are recorded for study. Studying cowfish eye coordination could help explain how human eye movements are coordinated, a subject still incompletely understood. Along the California coast, highly trained dolphins are used by researchers to study the effects of extreme pressure on living organisms. As part of the research, this dolphin has been taught to trigger a camera on the seabed, thus photographing itself. At 500 meters, Pressure has completely collapsed the dolphin's rib cage. His lungs are useless. From such clues, it was proven that dolphins can survive for limited periods on the oxygen stored in their bloodstream alone. At the Navy Mammal Training Center near San Diego, Director Dr. Samuel Ridgway comments.
One possible outfall of this type of study is the fact that through investigation of the diving physiology of marine mammals, we might be able to get information that would be useful for solving certain human medical problems, such as diving decompression sickness, fetal asphyxia, shock, perhaps even things like sudden infant death syndrome that are related to breath holding and other cardiovascular responses that the organism makes.
To learn how high pressure affects the human heart, sea lions with implanted radio telemeters broadcast their heart rates to surface recorders in controlled dives. The sea lion's normal heartbeat is about 100 beats per minute on the surface, but much less at great depths. This one has been taught to slow his heart on command to as slow as 10 beats per minute, altering his metabolism and decreasing his oxygen intake. Can man learn these crisis survival skills? Some physiologists think so. Today, marine scientists at universities, research laboratories, medical centers, and Navy installations are improving medical diagnosis and treatment, as well as advancing human understanding of basic life processes for the benefit of all mankind. Science Screen Report has been produced by Ciba Geigy Corporation with headquarters in Ardsley, New York, as part of its continuing program in support of science education.
All right, so I figured out what happened with Duke Thomas. I used the scanner to transfer some film that had a magnetic soundtrack, and I forgot to switch it back. So this one has an optical soundtrack. And let's try it again. Duke Thomas, Mailman. Enjoy.
This old time clock, I hit it a many a day. I'm surprised I haven't two. Sometimes I feel like hitting it, and sometimes I don't feel like hitting it.
Snow baby. Hey,
Okay, I'm on the clock. I'm making money anyway.
Carriers 41, 61, 56, 15. Cage, please.
It's a good thing they're giving us these 3.5 hours office time, or I never would get this mail straightened out. I wonder what the poor mailman would do if they just sent his mail out and he just had to put that sack on his back and start walking with it. So I'll get it all lined up here in this case and pull it down like she lays, and I'll know right where I'm going when I get there. Just think. All the letters, the millions and millions of letters that come through, just about all of them get delivered. Each one of these little holes belongs to somebody. Boy, and some of this handwriting. I wonder why these people don't put enough postage on their letters when they mail them. Oh, Miss Goldsmith got a letter from Hawaii. How about that? That must be her nephew. I'm sure glad he wrote her because she was sure worried about it. Oh, 2411 West 8th Street. They moved over there. 90057, zip code 10835 Santa Monica Boulevard. 1911 West 9th Street. 1541 West 108th Street. 517 West Region. I bet this lady will be surprised to get this letter. Doesn't even have a correct address on it. But I'm going to give it to her anyway because I know where she is.
Hey, Kennedy. Yeah. Piece of mail for you. Oh, yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, Johnny. Some more mail, huh? Is that their mail? Yeah, that's it. All righty. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Say, what about this American Potash 3780? I think... We really get that? No, you know what? I think that goes to 06. I'll put it on there and see if... Just put it up for him. Yeah, I'll put it on there and see if he gets it. I think this is yours, Duke. It's got a bum address. How about that? Oh, yeah. I get this. Goes to Tony and Abby's hot dog stand out there.
I think I tie this apartment house out by itself because it's pretty heavy. They've got about 15 or 20 magazines here to go in one apartment house, so I'll wrap it up by itself and tie their letters out separately. For when I get there, I won't have to fumble all through the mail to find theirs. It'll all be together. Not allowed to use too much of Uncle Sam's string, so I'll have to borrow a strap or two from one of my case partners. 8th in Oxford. There we go. Okay, that one goes on the truck. Well, now sling this sack up on this truck for delivery to my relay box. Now, here we go.
17 here. Quite a few magazines. Yeah, 17. Hope it doesn't get too hot. How are you this morning? Fine. That's good. Beautiful day, isn't it? Sure.
Doggone straps are always in the way. See that the people get their Social Security checks, their dividend checks, their insurance policies, thank you cards, baby shower invitations, bills. Everyone gets the water bill, the gas bill, the light bill. Clomp, 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 down the street. Every day, same thing. I've learned how to say good morning 25 different ways. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, morning, morning. It's not bad. What hurts me is sometimes when they won't say good morning back. Oh well, could be worse. Could have 2 or 3 dogs on there chasing me every day.
Morning, hi. Oh, piece of cinnamon gone there.
Boy, just the one I'm waiting for. Now I can go to work. I got a dial in there, yeah. Just the one I'm waiting for. Thanks a lot.
Alrighty. Morning, Dora. How are you?
Good morning, Jude.
Fine. Good morning, Lilo.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Got a registered letter for you today.
Okay.
How's the family?
Just fine, thanks.
Yeah, that's good. You have a cold, don't you?
Yes, I visited Dr. twice.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
Anytime.
Fine, good. Take care of that cold.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Got a hot one, too? That's it. I like the way you walk.
Hey, Tony and Happy.
Open it up, see what's in there.
Isn't that nice?
Hey, this ain't Valentine's Day, Duke. What are you doing here? Hey, let's see. Special handling. Oh, Duke, look at that.
Sweet. Oh, I'll be gone.
Oh,
Happy, you're looking younger all the time.
Tony. Isn't that good, Duke? Gee, crackers. Duke, how do you like that?
Boy, isn't that something?
Oh. How about that?
Did you thank you?
Thank you, Duke.
I've been with them a long time, and they've gotten to be part of me. Well, here he is. This guy's running late. By golly, it's the first time I've ever beat him into this box, you know?
Okay, take it easy. Be safe. I've learned a lot in the last years that I've worked for the post office. It's really been great, and I'm glad I'm at the point now where I just about know it all, but every day I learn something different, something new comes along.
Morning.
A little something?
A little something?
Yeah, not very much.
Oh,
It'll keep you busy for a little while, though.
just the, all advertisements today. Okay.
Alrighty.
Geez, I just wish that I didn't have all these circulars to crowd the people's box up. 8, apartment 9, apartment 4, 3. That does it.
Morning, Duke. How are you?
Oh, just fine.
Kitty's running. Oh, thank you very much. Anything exciting?
No.
Say, Duke,
Mm-hmm.
do you know how much it takes to post a letter to BB Switzerland?
15 cents a half an ounce for every.
50 cents half an ounce. And how long would it take?
I imagine around 2 days.
Around 2 days.
I think they'll get it in time.
Thank you so much.
All right, Miss Nancy.
Randy. Girls, look what we got here. Can I see it? Just a minute, honey. Really? And look at this. It's from Johnny. Look at the fish. Look at this one. Oh, that. It's a fish. It's a real fish.
Whew, boy, that sun's really coming down now. I better get a move on and try to get out of it. I wonder why they don't put their names on the boxes out here. Still, I'm supposed to be the mind reader. Morning, Miss Green.
Hello.
How are you today?
Fine. Good. Thank you.
Okay, now sit down. Be a good girl.
If it wasn't for these coupons and samples that come through every other day, it wouldn't be bad. There's a glow that comes over everyone's face when you give them a nice letter. 10 people have to handle this letter for 5 cents. This way, if the guy sit down and write a letter to his girlfriend, boy, she can read it for the next 10 years. This is what I like about the mail. Boy, I wish they wouldn't make these caps so heavy. This thing feels like it weighs about 8 pounds on my head. I'm just glad it's not raining. Boy, my feet are telling me it's time to get out of here. It's a little after 2 now, and got to rest the old feet for today.
It's fascinating. When you compare, it's definitely not a Cornet or Encyclopedia Britannica film. It's a Dimension Films, and I don't know a whole lot about them. I feel like that they might have splintered off of Churchill Films, and they were West Coast based. And just the whole single narration is just fascinating to me. It's really kind of awesome. So, anyways, what do we got? Let's learn about Milford USA and civil defense. Enjoy.
nature has been good to us Americans. We have a bounty of land and food, forests, mineral wealth, and water to sustain people, plants, and animals. But occasionally nature, as if to remind us of her bounty, unleashes the fury of wind, rain, and flood. Man, too, has contributed to nature's violence in our forests and in our cities. How it happened? It happened in Texas City in 1947. A disaster that took hundreds of lives and left countless injured and homeless. Disaster has occurred with such frequency that in many towns and cities across the nation, thoughtful men and women are preparing plans to care for the injured, the sick, and the desolate. The aftermath of disaster. Take this group from the town of, well, we'll call it Milford. Each one of them knows that disaster planning is a complex job involving the coordination of many different skills. On their planning hinges the story we call Milford USA. These men and women in Milford knew that planning against disaster wasn't a sometime thing, a hit-and-miss affair. The mayor recognized the need for experts. He brought to the first meeting his fire chief, the chief of police, the town engineer, the local civil defense director, a doctor, and two representatives from the Red Cross, one a nurse, and the other an expert in disaster planning. From the start, the group knew what it was planning for. A river ran through the town, and a bad flood could cause severe damage. Although the town's fire laws were stringent, a fire in one of Milford's industrial plants or tank farms might cause a major disaster. But most important, Milford is in a tornado belt. Although it hasn't yet been hit, the threat of a bad tornado hangs over the town each year. Having pinpointed possible disasters which could occur in Milford, the group settled down to planning emergency measures. In the weeks that followed, safe areas or shelters were designated, and the townspeople made aware of them. Plans to organize professional medical and nursing help were made, and the patient loads of Milford's hospitals analyzed against a disaster influx. Plans to create more interest in home nursing and first aid classes were made. What happened in Milford didn't take a day, a week, or even a month. But finally, the disaster plans were made, plans for several contingencies, but all involving the same protective elements. Would they work? The only way to find out would be to try out one of the plans, a drill for a natural disaster. It would mean more planning, setting up victims, disrupting school schedules, contacting businessmen with large plants. But it could be done. For the town of Milford, planning for a disaster wasn't left to chance. Once those affected by a work stoppage agreed and the victims designated, the only imponderable facing the group was, how would the townspeople react to a situation which wasn't the real thing? Let's see what happened in the shelter phase of the drill. This is a simulated Red Cross shelter. Prior to their arrival, many disaster victims were already given first aid. These victims were brought here for continued care and temporary shelter. Nursing assistants who are calm and well informed about the condition of patients can give simple nursing care to help patients and their families feel that everything possible will be done to promote recovery. Knowledge of home nursing fundamentals, vital to the health and comfort of your own family, may bring relief, comfort, and reassurance to the victims of disaster. The need for warmth and reassurance is even greater in caring for the old. An aged parent or relative in your own home, here, a stranger. Care for the young, disrupted, made homeless, perhaps in a disaster orphaned. Again, a need for knowledgeable home nursing care. One of the most basic of all home nursing procedures, the taking of temperatures. If thermometers are available, the home nurse, familiar with the procedure, will have no difficulty in an emergency in adapting herself to a shelter situation. Of course, in real life, the home nurse will usually want to wear low-heeled shoes. If there is a shortage of thermometers, or none is available, the home nurse may have to use her powers of observation to determine whether a patient has a fever. A rise in temperature may be caused by infection or dehydration, especially in burn cases. The feel of a patient's forehead, a flush in the patient's cheeks, may indicate the presence of a fever. The throat is one of the first areas where symptoms of illness appear. Early recognition of a sore throat by the home nurse may help prevent the spread of disease, especially when large numbers of people are gathered in one shelter. Burns may be the result of flame, chemicals, steam, or hot water. Burn dressings applied at the disaster scene must be checked carefully to see that they are clean and secure, and, if necessary, another one added by the home nurse. Let me emphasize, the burn dressing is not removed, except as a doctor may direct. Injury to limbs is a common result of a disaster. The home nurse should observe whether splints are in the proper position and report when adjustment is necessary. Open cuts and wounds from flying debris are sure to take their toll. Knowledge of pressure dressings enables this nurse to assist in applying further pressure to control the bleeding. Such follow-up procedures on the part of the home nurse may keep a patient alive until further medical care can be given. Where a patient has difficulty breathing, as with a patient who is gasping, turning the patient's head to one side and pushing the jaw forward will usually open the air passage. Cold or hot compresses may also relieve suffering. This woman, remembering what she has learned in her home nursing course, makes certain that compresses or other devices used in cold or hot treatments are safe to use. The home nurse remembers, too, the procedures for treatment of the eyes, a common source of injury from swirling dust and debris. Here she shows how to instill eye drops, holding the dropper steady across the bridge of the nose. Then a separate wipe for each eye. In addition to her knowledge of home nursing procedures for the relief of pain and physical suffering, the nurse assistant in the shelter may often be called upon to provide many quick and ingenious services. It may be necessary to protect a patient from falling out of a cot, The home nurse accomplishes this by using a blanket fastened at the head and foot of the bed to form a protective bed rail. Emergency situations call for swiftly devised equipment for the comfort of disaster victims. A pair of slippers may be made out of a newspaper. Formed into bags made with two thicknesses, the loose corner of the locked cuff of the bag, tucked under to form a triangle, makes the sole of the slipper. In the same way that the slippers were made, newspapers may also be used to improvise bags for disposal purposes. An improvised robe may be a great comfort in an emergency shelter. This home nurse fashions a robe out of a blanket. A lengthwise fold of the blanket placed at the center of the patient's neck forms the collar. The blanket is adjusted around the patient's shoulder and pinned. The robe is then completed by pinning sleeves on each side. Another useful article is a cardboard box made into a crib or bed and padded for an infant. When possible, the home nurse should arrange to screen off an area in the shelter, perhaps for a nursing mother or for any situation calling for privacy. A sheet or a blanket may be used for this purpose. Any effort toward keeping a family together in a shelter goes a long way toward improving morale. The home nurse is invaluable in this type of human guidance, where knowledge of emergency measures and facilities is of such vital importance. The Milford group had learned many valuable lessons from its exercise in planning for a disaster from natural causes. The townspeople had responded well. The group knew that more education, more planning would be necessary for community shelter living to protect themselves from the danger of fallout if the country were subject to a nuclear attack. There are established methods of maintaining sanitation and preventing infection which must be employed in the fallout shelter. A home nurse will be helpful in ensuring that these methods are followed. For example, in the use of containers for disposal of waste, soil dressings, litter, and human waste. A knowledge of food preparation under emergency conditions is vital for preparing food in a fallout shelter. This home nurse is preparing a bottle feeding for a baby using powdered milk and cold water. The milk must be warm, and a good way to warm it is to place it under your arm. Food and water itself must be carefully conserved in an emergency shelter. The responsibility for distributing these supplies rests with the shelter manager, but the home nurse can help in the task of teaching individuals how to conserve distributed supplies. Preparation of food in such an emergency shelter may be minimal. The home nurse will need to help with the feeding of the ill or disabled. The tensions of confinement in a shelter may be relieved by recreation. The home nurse can help entertain the children by telling them stories or teaching them songs. She may even improvise games, such as this checkerboard made from cardboard. She can see to it that reading matter is circulated. Above all, the home nurse can see to it that disaster victims are made as comfortable as possible. Identification of people in a shelter is of great importance, and especially important when caring for the young or very ill, since they may be incapable of volunteering this necessary information. This, then, has been the story of Milford, USA. As I said at the beginning, planning for a disaster, operating a shelter is a complex job involving the coordination of many skills. Here, many people work together toward the same end. The professional nurse, the practical nurse, and the home nurse. Like others, the home nurse is a valuable member of the emergency team. In this effort, no one stands alone. In recognition of that fact, may I present Mrs. Jane Hanna, Special Assistant to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Civil Defense, who will speak to you about your importance as a home nurse in disaster situations. Mrs. Hanna.
This is the last in the series of Red Cross home nursing films. In previous films, you have seen demonstrations of many nursing skills which you can employ in relieving suffering in your own home or your own community. Today, you have seen how many of those home nursing skills may be adapted to care for larger groups in a Red Cross or a community fallout shelter. In the event of disaster or nuclear attack upon our nation, follow-up care of the sick and injured and reassurance of the bewildered and frightened will require home nursing knowledge. For it is very important that doctors and professional nurses be relieved of as much routine work as possible under emergency conditions. Those of you who have had Red Cross instruction in home nursing could form the core of this vital nursing assistant. The Red Cross home nursing course should be a must for at least one member of every family. There are, of course, other services necessary to make fallout shelters safe and bearable for people. But care of the sick and injured will be a vital part of these services, regardless of the nature of the emergency. Your local civil defense, Red Cross chapter, and your health department have available informational books and pamphlets on the subject of home nursing and emergency care of the sick and injured. Keep up to date with the latest home nursing techniques. Keep in touch with local civil defense and public health developments. In a community disaster or an attack, in an emergency within your own home, your training may be the deciding factor in saving lives.
It was epic. I like the home setting is basically in this dark set, and it kind of makes everything a little creepy. But yeah, so this was made for nurses, and was an attempt to address the issues of what happens in case of calamity, including atomic attack. And I have several of these films about nursing during such emergencies. So, pretty fascinating stuff. Thanks for joining us today. As always, We love your comments. We love you watching, tuning in. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up or the like. Even if you've done it in the past, it's a great way to support us. You can also support us by going and watching our 24/7 channel at avgeeks.com or buying some DVDs. You can also go to patreon.com/avgeeks and you can tip us. And also just buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. We love your coffee. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and we will be back again tomorrow. As always, please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.